All right. We are going live.
Yes, we are. Hello, ladies.
We're not there
Are
yet.
you recording
I'll
us?
let you know.
Oh, it says live on the side.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, we're live.
That's what happens, people. Right, okay, I had to put that on mute because I know how it goes. Okay, and let's record. Hello, gorgeous swans. Good evening and welcome to tonight's conversation with the girls. We do try to come together and sit on the same sofa and do all that great stuff, but our schedules are crazy. So this is as good as it gets for now. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about why he disappears when he sleeps with you. You see, I did a reel the other day and it's gone viral. And it is, why does he disappear after you have slept with him? Okay. So obviously, I assuming this is something that's on a lot of women's heartbeat, or we're all very, very curious about. Perhaps, it's a conversation. I actually thought that was the most boring topic when I did it because it's so age old. It's been death. But I also realized that, when it's happening to you, it feels like the first time and it's brand new. And also, I thought there's so many other nuances that are never discussed on social media. We kind of get the whole, if he doesn't do this, then it means that, tell him to F off and go somewhere, whatever. But in this moment, we can look at the nuances, the different types of men, why they do what they do. Not all men are the same. And I think it's so important for people in our position to make it clear that there are different types of men, that we are conscious that there are different types of men. Otherwise, we wouldn't do the work that we do. If we genuinely believe the world was full of trashy men, we wouldn't do what we do. We do what we do because we want to get good women to good men in record time, right? And good men to good women in record time. So, how we're going to talk about, the types of men, what to look out for, what is really going on, what are the real drivers with certain types of men, that kind of thing. So we're just going to chit chat as usual, and forgive us if the conversation goes left, because this is how we chit chat. If you put Yvonne and Coach Unique and myself in the same room, we will discuss hair and then move on to psychology, then move on to plastic surgery, and we'll talk about everything. So this is really an opportunity for us to chit chat. Get your glass of water, tea, drink, whatever. I've got my lemon water here for my healing. That's the one and we're just going to chit chat and have a conversation around this. So who's going to go first? Let's start with Coach Unique. Let's get you started. Coach Unique is
I knew it was going to be
me. We know it's your
because Coach Unique is our head coach, and we're going to let her go first. We're going to let her take the front go, because we also know that Coach Yvonne is really great at listening and pulling us all up on what we're saying. So I think it's a good thing. So today you're it. Let's hear from you, Coach Unique. What are your thoughts? Why do you think, in your experience, what you have heard in your time as a coach, what do you think is standardly happening when men disappear? And are they types of men that disappear? What's your take on that? We'll lift off from there.
Something I think I kind of went back into the how to talk to men so I can listen, how to make sure you have a connection, and I was thinking along those lines of, what is it like? Sometimes you can date someone for years and years and years and years and years. You both decided, you're gonna wait. You get married, then he still leaves. You wait 2 weeks and he still leaves. You wait a whole year and he still leaves. And pretty much everything I was reading around was about emotional connection. So there are certain men who just find it hard to emotionally connect. They just don't have that bonding quality. They never were raised to have the bonding quality. And I think predominantly most men are like that, but it really depends on how they're then acclimatized with family, whether they're allowed to securely bond with their mothers, with their fathers, all that kind of stuff. So the main thing that I really wanted to kind of touch on is that emotional connection. I think when there's no emotional connection for a man, it makes it easy for him, one, to be physically intimate with you, and just leave, because there's no exchange other than just physical. It's really at just this, it's just the physical level. It hasn't gone deep. Sometimes you can get an emotional connection instantly. Sometimes it takes time to build it. But I think sometimes as women, we don't really watch out for that emotional connection. Like a man can be intimate, because we don't want to be banned, or what do they call it, shadow banned. A man can be intimate with any woman, because as long as you stimulate him and he can get it up, it's a go, right? But for him to be able to stay, it has to be more than just that. And then you kind of find most women being in situations where they're now the, what do we call them again? The, not pick-me's, when you have a situationship, because he's getting physical connection, but not the emotional connection. So and I think it goes the same for women as well. If there's no emotional connection, we find it hard to actually be with a man, I think. I mean, depends again. Why do I want to go there? I want to go there.
Just go there, girl.
About the whole count and everything, and how the more sexual partners you have, the more likely you're not going to have an emotional connection. Most men have a lot of sexual partners, so they most probably would have bonded with the first woman that they were intimate with, and over time the bonding gets less and less and less and less. That particular hormone doesn't really drive men as much as it drives us women. Same as when you have multiple partners as a woman, you find it harder and harder and harder to connect as the numbers go up. So basically, let me start there, because there's so much to unpack in just that emotional connection. And I guess most women will be asking, okay, then how do I ensure that I have an emotional connection with my man so that it doesn't leave? But let's address the whole, how come we don't even notice that he has the he doesn't have an emotional connection, which then makes him leave afterwards.
Absolutely. So we've got point one, emotional connection. Okay.
Yes,
so that's true. When a man does not have an emotional connection, he has no actual reason to stay. He has no reason to hang out. And how do you create that that emotional connection? We're going to discuss that maybe a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Yvonne, what are your thoughts? Why do men hit and quit?
Oh, you're on mute, honey.
Sorry. I was listening to some of the things that you were saying, Coach Unique, and a thought that struck me, and I'm trying not to ask a question within this sphere, and it gets quite challenging, so I'm going to do my best to say what I've got to say so it doesn't come across as a question. You talk about the, for want of a better phrase, the head count, the notches on the bedpost, etc. I'm wondering if it's a case of where men and women do that, because, the person who shoots up for the first time, you have whatever your drug of choice is, and that high you get, where it is the most amazing thing, and then you spend the next 20 years chasing that high again. So I'm wondering are men leaving those who are just interested in having a high bed count, or making sure they've got enough notches on the bedpost? Is it that they're now chasing the high and they see a great woman out there, she looks good, everything about her is oh so fun, and they think, I'm going to get it from her? And then 3, 4, 5 weeks into the relationship, then it happens and he realizes, but it's still stale bread. It's not what I thought it was going to be. Here's me thinking it was going to be a great baguette. When he gets into it, it's just another slice of bread with a bit of butter on it. There was nothing so special. So then it's next and next and next, and then it keeps going. And then the next thing both parties realize is we're now pushing 50 and there still isn't anyone. So is it a case of where the emotion to connect to somebody has now gone totally dead because they can't chase. So in the end, they end up settling for something that, you know what, half a bread is better than none. So let me grab hold of this one, because you know what she does, she can do, or he can do, and this one is going to be better than not having any at all.
Yes, I think that men and women do have love addictions. Those can show up to being addicted to the hormonal cocktail that happens at first attraction, because when we first have attraction, we have the dopamine highs, we have the bonding, the oxytocin, we have all of these kind of, this whole kind of cocktail of hormones that actually our bodies can get addicted to. So sometimes when you're dating a guy and he's really genuinely looking in your eye and telling you, you're the one, I'm gonna marry you, baby, you're the one, when I saw you walking up the street, I knew you're my wife. So because to be honest, that's the crap we're all falling for, right? That's what we're falling for, because I don't believe that there are any black swans or white swans and I'm not talking about race here, I'm talking about caliber, okay? Of women who genuinely just jump into bed because they got nothing better to do, or because they don't have offers, or the best thing that's walked is often because there's a promise on the table. So these men will obviously make a promise and will imply and make all these lovely implications, and so they're searching that new high. So which is what Coach Yvonne is talking about, that sort of love addiction, that first time addiction, and they keep going from one place to the other. I feel that, there are few points I'm going to throw out there as well, that men, we're talking about men here because women do it too recently. There's just a shift in the way women behave. But let's talk about men, because we're talking to women about men in general. Men have trauma that they seek to soothe through the sexual experience. Okay, so they can use the sexual experience as a way, certainly men with mother wounds who use the sexual experience to torment, almost to take back their power from women, because there's a lot of trauma that is inflicted from mother to son, especially in certain communities for sure, where we talk to our sons like we're crazy. Okay, I have spoken to and met men who have been sexually molested by their mothers, and I say this lightly. I had an incident once with a gentleman whose mother fondled him because she was afraid that he was gay, so she called him into his room and fondled him until he got a reaction. And when he got the reaction, that was it, he could leave. I don't think he understands the magnitude of that kind of trauma for a man.
No.
And his whole life, his whole expression with women was to almost get back, there are a lot of men with a lot of mother wounds that we really need to address, and they use sexuality and they prey on good girls, good women who genuinely want marriage, who are really virtuous, because she's got that mother element, because men look at their mothers as virtuous beings, right? So who are actually attracted to virtuous type of women who want to punish them. And I heard a story that maybe Coach Unique might want to share along those lines, of the fact that he might even wait 2 years, 3 years. I know for sure men who have waited years to get into a woman's knickers only to vamoose, because what we don't understand is that we've been told, certainly many of us church girls and those of us with a high moral code, if you make him wait, if you give him the milk, he's not going to buy the cow. No. And that was fine way back when there was no milk other than if you buy the cow, Now milk is for free on the high street over there.
There's so many options.
There's so many options.
You don't even need a cow anymore.
So, and many of us kind of did the whole, no, I don't want with my milk because you got to buy the cow, and obviously we've kind of been, practicing abstinence for many of us. And as a result, we think this gentleman who was waiting for 2-3 years, we think is waiting with us, right? We genuinely tell ourselves this man is waiting with us. So we feel really flattered when he's waiting a year, when he's waiting 2 years, when he's waiting 3 years. My mom said she made my dad wait for 5 years. I know for a fact that man was not waiting with her. She was waiting alone. Okay. And because we're waiting alone, I hate to break our fantasies out here in these streets, girls, okay? Because we're waiting alone largely, very rarely is a godly man who is waiting for you going to take years. If he's a godly man and you tell him to wait, we're moving at 6 months to a year maximum, okay? Because he's waiting with you.
Yeah.
It's urgent for him. If a man is just like patient with you, take your time, I don't need to pressure you, and he's showing up with the dates and showing up with the courtship and showing up with everything, no pressure, baby. The chances of that man waiting with you for 2, 3, 4, 5 years is not likely. So there are some men who have that mother wound who will wait with you for you will wait alone. You're waiting alone.
Who will wait? Not even a long time.
Who will let you wait alone?
Let you wait.
And after you've waited sufficiently, and you feel like, okay, he's been so patient, good boy. 2 years later, 3 years later, you're like, okay, I'm gonna give up the goods because clearly he's definitely into me because he's hung around. And then he ups and leaves after the long wait. Would you like to add anything to that, Coach?
And the sad thing is the girl was a virgin as well. So it's like just one of those stories that you kind of hear and you think, hey, men are evil.
Yeah, ready to take the woman's virginity.
Yeah, and that's another thing, because again, amongst the manosphere, there are also those goals that they need to reach. So again, it's like it's one of those stories that is sad. Because if she had been part of Black Swan, we would have been able to tell her, okay, no, these are the signs. What is happening? You need to watch out for this. Because the man waited. He waited 2.5 years almost. And he was very patient. And like there was never any, okay, let's meet the family. There was never any intention beyond, oh, we're just boyfriend and girlfriend. And she didn't know to look for that. She didn't know to look for longevity. It was always, I will marry you one day when we're in our 30s. In their 20s. When we're in our 30s, I will marry you. It was always that promise on the table, but there was never any official, okay, here are my parents. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm building for us to go, to build a future for us. And I remember her one time, she said, he always used to say to me, oh, if I was older, he would marry me. So I'm waiting till we're older. And when she was ready to, the guy didn't even take 2 weeks and he was gone. It's heart-wrenching. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you just think, hey, God.
And I think probably that's why so many of us were touched by this topic and this title, because I think many of us, I don't know if you're an adult woman and you're very fortunate if you haven't been a victim. And what you're left with is this feeling that I must have been a hoe, or I must have, as if it's our fault, like the virtue piece, you missed that. I remember having a conversation with a guy and he said, well, but women are in charge of sex, they're sexual gatekeepers. And I literally went into my Mama Swan beast mode, which most people don't get to see, but it comes out. And I was like, I'm actually really exhausted with men. Look, I am an advocate for men more than most women I know. I genuinely love men, and I genuinely do what I do because I feel it benefits both men and women. We love men, we really do. But there is this kind of conversation on the manosphere that, well, if you were truly a virtuous woman, you would have never got yourself in that situation in the first place, which abdicates responsibility for my leadership as a man. It abdicates my responsibility for how I lead the women in my life. It abdicates responsibility for how I live my life and the virtue and the values that I live my life by. And then it leaves the woman coming across as a kind of reckless, immoral soul. right? But what we don't share are the lies we tell that woman.
Mm.
You know, the whole, look, is the lies. In the same way as we look at men and say, well, you should have known she was a gold digger from morning. But what we don't account for is the pretense that she's a beautiful, sweet, virtuous soul. No woman, well, few are coming at a man and saying, excuse me, if you don't have one eye, I don't even want to talk to you. A lot of women come to a man like they're genuinely interested in him, that they find him amusing, that, you know, they think he's great, but really they don't. And this man pours his finances onto her, but no one accounts for the lies. No one accounts for the fact that we're all gullible in the realms of relationships, because we're all lonely and we're all ebbing on the piece of desperation, right? All of us have this undercurrent of desperation, because loneliness exasperates our desperation. What do you think, Coach Yvonne? What are your thoughts?
There's a lot of things that's going on in my head, and there's two prevailing thoughts at the moment. Education and communication are the things that's going on in my head right now. Is it that because there isn't a male figure in a lot of homes, I'm speaking of today, back in the day, you had mommy and daddy were there. The father was there to teach the son how he should treat a woman. The boy would see the way his father treated his mother. If you're fortunate enough to live in a home where everything was normal, then he would know exactly how to treat a woman, and his father would probably tell him, respect the girl, you know, do all the things that is right by her. Unfortunately, today, that isn't the case, and many homes are single parent families. And because of this, there's nobody there to teach the young man or the young girl. Preserve yourself as a woman, have respect for yourself, care, love yourself, or as a gentleman, take care of her, nurture her, do all the things that you're supposed to do for a woman, treat her the way, you know, you would want somebody to treat you. And because there isn't that, everybody's left to bring up themselves and basically do as they see their friends do, and listen to, the guy listens to his guy friends, and they're doing the big, oh no, I'm the man and I tell her and she does, and the girl's doing, oh, isn't he lovely? And everyone's doing that, but nobody knows how to communicate and nobody's educated. So all these things are going on within relationships, and I refuse to believe that men are so callous when they do that to somebody that they walk away and think, yes, I did it to her. I refuse to believe that they do. Do you get what I mean? There's got to be, you've been with this person 2 or 3 years. There was something. Could you do the act so well that when the time now came for you to, you know, do anyway, could it be a case that, you know what, it was her first time and she was so bad, he just thought, you know, I can't do this again. So he goes, but he doesn't communicate with her and say to her, look, I really like you, but, you know, I'm a highly, you know, virile man and I want to be treated in such a way. So instead of saying, I want it done, you know, do this, do whatever, he thinks, but no, you should know. And he gets a, you know, and he thinks, no, I don't know, let me go. But when he goes away, he doesn't walk away and cheers and says, you know, bagged another virgin, here I go. There must be something in him that is gnawing at him, saying, but why didn't it work? I stuck around. Okay, he was getting serviced by somebody else, but he genuinely liked this person. Or is he just thinking, you know what, you're too pretty, so I'm going to teach you, how dare you let me wait? You know, what is it that goes through, you know,
Coach
the
Yvonne's
person's
heart
mind?
is so pure. You know, I know. To be honest with you, I want to say this. I want to say that it is that very mindset that gets virtuous women done. Yeah. Because when you're virtuous, you really live your whole life of believing that people don't mean other people any harm. You really genuinely go through your whole life believing that what people say is what they do, because you live on a code of virtue and integrity. And this is why when you see single mothers, and I really feel sad for, whilst, you know, Unique and I perhaps can be labeled single mothers, we were married mothers who became divorced. So it's a different story, you know, from maybe the girl who got laid and got pregnant and he ran off, kind of single mothers. And while I think they get such a bad rap, my experience has been that for the majority of single mothers that I have personally dealt with, they were actually the innocent, sweet church souls. It's because of this belief that surely, and I've struggled with that, and I still do, I won't lie. I've struggled with this idea that they're rotten human beings. I just struggle to, I remember it was Coach Unique who was like, Chengi, sometimes people are just rotten. Or I think I kept going, because I think it's subconscious and it's unconscious, it's subconscious. And I'm kind of, and I truly believe that a lot of stuff is subconscious. But in truth, there's some people who have chosen the darkness.
Yeah.
And whilst I do, and the point that you do make, Coach Yvonne, is true. I have spoken to men who have done this, who have been players, who've heard a lot of innocent women. And I've asked them, at any point, did you ever feel guilt? Because a lot of my work is based on talking to men. You know, I do the research, I do the studies, I have the thoughts, and then I run them by real men, different types of men, players, gentlemen, godly men, complete losers. I want to get into the head of different types of men to get an idea of what's actually going on. And we can talk about the different types of men as well at some point. But I was sort of asking him, I was saying to him, you know, what do you feel guilt? And he said, yeah. He said, you know, there's always that one girl that, you know, she's not about that. And he said he would, and this was an ex-footballer. So we're talking about a lot of options. And he said that, you know, you can literally have any woman you want. They throw themselves at you. In fact, you're the hunted. And he says, but you always meet that one woman who was really kind of pure-hearted, virtuous. She's not about that life. And he said every single time he would take advantage of such a woman, he would look in the mirror and think, you idiot. Like he would have that conversation with himself. And that was really quite gratifying for me, because I was like, okay, so they do know. So I do think that there's definitely some validity in what you've said, Coach Yvonne, about the fact that there are some that will go and think, I did too much.
Don't you think, can I add to that? Because I think over time what happens is, you know how it is, one time you will steal a piece of cake, and then you feel guilty. Then another opportunity comes and you take another one. Over time, you kind of numb that feeling of guilt. But I'm sure at some point they started off feeling guilty, but over time you do numb it. Like it ends up just becoming normal. A professional thief doesn't become a professional thief because, you know, they held on to the guilt. They become good at what they do, which is where players come in. They become good at what they do because they've numbed that part, which goes back to the whole thing of them not connecting emotionally by choice now. Whereas they started off, you know, I want to bag as many virgins as I can. And then it becomes a thing and a habit that they do, so much so that they're in their 50s and thinking, I can't actually get out of this because it's not become so normal. It's not become something I do. There are people who just cannot, we call them commitment phobias. They just cannot find a way to commit to one person because they've trained their body to always look for better, to always go for the higher dopamine hit, to always go for the thrill, for the chase. And when you train your body to do that, you're literally training yourself not to connect. So I think there is a part where, yes, they started off feeling guilty, but because they kept repeating the same pattern, it becomes that. A pattern becomes their way.
And the Bible says that it talks about the seared conscience. And that's a reality for all of us. There's things, you know, the conscience at some point has to numb itself. The nervous system has to find a way of regulating itself. If you have a behavior that dysregulates it all the time, it has to find a way to normalize it so that you don't have crisis every single time you do that thing. So yes, I think that's definitely both points. They're valid. There's those people who still have a conscience that still speaks to them. And then there are those with a seared conscience. And those are the ones that are creating havoc out here. Now, I know that the kind of recommended prescription is just don't sleep with them until they put a ring on your finger. Just don't do it. Okay. And albeit that sound It is. I mean,
Yeah.
get that right. Okay. It's sound advice, because whilst there's no such thing as a guarantee in relationships, because he can marry you, then cheat on you, he could marry you, then leave you, he can marry you and,
Yep.
you know, and commit sexual crimes, you know. So there are no kind of guarantees, but if you want longevity and commitment, then of course, waiting for marriage is probably the smartest thing you can do if marriage is a commitment that you're after. But realistically, how many women can actually wait? Because this is a thing about sex and sexuality. They're gonna have to shadow ban us because I'm using that word, okay? They won't. But here's the thing. When we have this conversation in this way, we assume that the sexual gatekeeper has no sexual desires. I think there's a very high and this thing of, you are the sexual gatekeeper, so you should be able to say no to sexual advances, because you're not a sexual being. What you are is a sexual gatekeeper. And if you let men through the gate, then you are an immoral, lack of virtue, lack of integrity, Jezebel of a woman, because you do not guard your gates like a pro, right? I've had men who will misuse women, conversations with them, run through women like, and say, well, women control sex. And that is a constant and consistent abdication of our responsibility, both of us. And this is the thing with certain conversations, women don't take accountability, but I am always shocked at how much men and women fail to take accountability. Human beings do not like to be held accountable. So let's just quit with the war of the genders and the sexes here. Human beings do not like to be held accountable, let alone hold themselves accountable, okay? And so what ends up happening is, you know, we use ways of abdicating. You're the sexual gatekeeper. So I am the emotional gatekeeper. So I will decide the progress of the relationship. And so, but actually as the emotional gatekeeper, you know, you do have emotions too.
Yeah.
Right? You are still an emotional being, subject to emotional manipulation, subject to emotional, you know, manipulation and exploitation. So you know, people can judge a man and say, you know what, he should have chosen a better wife, a better spouse. I mean, didn't he see? Well, he may be the emotional gatekeeper, but he's still somebody that's subject to manipulation. And I think what we've done is made each other robotic, that this woman of 40 who was married, got kids, this woman of 28 who's been sexually active before she found Jesus or before she decided to take a different path, you know, she has to just stand by that gate with a with her dry bits from the crown of her head to the sole of her feet, you know, and this man must just tell her how beautiful she is and give her the attention that she's been longing for, that she's not been getting for so long, the attention she hoped to get. He's looking her in the eye. He's telling her she's beautiful. He's giving her attention. He tells her good morning. He tells her good night. He's meeting that need to be seen, to be known, to be heard. He's present. He's speaking her love language. He's caressing her face. He is doing all of these things
on the forehead.
And no matter what happens, this woman must just be dry. She must be toasty and standing by the gate. I will not let you
close the gate.
Right? And we always kind of think of this thing as this, you know, cold negotiation where he pressures you for sex. Listen, if you don't give me sex, I'm going to beat you, you know, and she had to kind of do it. Otherwise, her life was in jeopardy. But we don't understand that the pressure is emotional pressure. Men will put sexual pressure. They will press your sexual buttons because you have sexual buttons. Right. And I think that the reason why we lose this battle is the denial of our sexuality as women, because that's what catches us out. And what makes men lose the battle with women is the denial of their emotional realities, that they are actually choosing emotionally, even though their rationale might be leading, there's an emotional situation going on there that will make them this woman who's a clear Jezebel from this woman who's a sweetheart, but she doesn't slay well. You know, he wants the slay one, right? And he knows the slay one is a Jezebel, but that's emotional. It's not just sexual, it's what he thinks she represents to him. It's how he feels as a man when he's around her, right? So what we need to understand, for me, and I feel women will lose the battle consistently, is, you know, I remember feeling like, you know, you, Chengi, must be the sexual great hyper, and then just totally surprised when everything was watery, you know, everything is flowing, and I'm thinking, it's not supposed to happen because I'm the sexual gatekeeper. And what happens is we then have this experience where we start to sell ourselves on his lies.
Yeah.
We want to somehow justify, well, he was going to marry me anyway. He's going to do this anyway. Then what's the story? Let's get on with the get on. And or we make them wait 2 years or we make them wait 3 years, because we're thinking, if I've been a good soldier and I've held at the gates,
I'll get my reward.
Even though I am flowing, even though the river is flowing, I have been able to hold.
I think you might have to explain the river flowing, Chengi, because I think you might be losing some people. It took me a while there. I was like,
did you not get it? Okay, I don't know if I can explain it any further. I think if I've lost you, it's just take that
you're a human being in your sexual work.
I think anyone who's
sexual tools work
understand what I mean. But you know, I feel like, you know, that is definitely something that we need to address. So that we can have grace and compassion towards each other, that, you know, especially towards ourselves. You know, I slept with that guy not because, you know, this transactional thing as well is, you know, I slept with him so he could stay. You know, he said he would stay, so I slept with him. But why don't we just own it and say I slept with him because I wanted to?
Yeah.
I think it's always
like, why don't we just say, you know what, I was horny and you know, my juices were flowing and I was feeling some kind of way, and the sweet talk got to every part of my being, and I just wanted to, because I feel that a lot of the hurt that we're spewing out and the man hate, because, you know, when I put on the Instagram, why do men what was the one on my Instagram, why do men emotionally rape women? And I thought, that's a bit hard. I understood where she was coming from and I empathized. But really, when you laid down, was it really for him?
It's what I said earlier about communication, isn't it? We don't communicate with each other, and the last person we communicate with is ourselves. Spend, you know, the sad thing about it is we spend so much time beating up on us, but the things we're supposed to communicate out to ourselves with, we don't do it, you know. And this is how, and what we then do is, you do it because, you know what, it's been a long time, I want to, I don't care, I'm going to enjoy. And then we go and tell our friends, do you know, he said he was going to, and he was going to, and he was going to, and I did, and now he's gone. Yeah, but you wanted, you're a part of it, you wanted it. So everybody got what they want. So
no, go ahead. I was going to say, it's like ownership, isn't it?
Yes.
So and I think we always talk about this amongst each other, amongst this one nation. We always say we need to get to a space where we own our feelings. We own every part of the ugly bits. I'm a church girl and I will sometimes get horny. I'm a church girl and I will sometimes, you know, want someone to hold me a certain way. And it's being honest about things like that will not get you caught out. It's being honest about the fact that, like you're saying, your rivers are flowing. It's harder to be abstinent and celibate with the guy that you like. I mean, if you don't like him, you don't care. No river's gonna flow anyway. It's just gonna stay in the dam. Nothing's flowing. If you don't like someone, nothing's gonna happen to you, like physiologically, when it comes to sexuals. You are not gonna want him in that way. So it's always that thing where we have to get to a point where we own we own and we are accountable and responsible for our own sexuality. 100%. And
100%. I truly believe it, and I feel that is the first antidote. Before we talk about signs, look out for this and look out for that and look out for that, it's fruitless if we ignore the reality that you are a sexual being. you
Yeah.
have sexual desires and you work, thank goodness, hallelujah.
Yeah.
And, you know, other than sex just being this pleasant experience, euphoric, it actually has many medicinal properties for women. It's good for our mental health. It's good for our heart health. It's good for regulation of our body. It's good for sex is so medicinal, right?
Yeah.
And that's why when you look in the Bible, and your desire shall be for your husband. For women, sex does so much for our health. It's incredible, right? So in a way, by not being sexual, we're denying ourselves a lot of privileges. There are a lot of medical conditions that happen from actually being abstinent. That's why God never designed abstinence as a form for everybody, right? It wasn't the original plan out here. That's why when Eve was introduced into the garden, the first thing that Adam did was give her what she needed. Okay, again, amen. And I think religion has made it that it was what Adam needed.
No.
Women actually need it. Even if you don't have an orgasm, the actual penetration does so much for your body. So, you know, this is again education that has not been put out there. So as a human being wired for nothing else but survival in terms of your psyche, wired for nothing else but survival, you are always going to go towards the thing that will keep you alive longest and healthiest and well, right? So it doesn't mean you're a slut. It doesn't mean you're you are actually trying to live. Okay. This is survival, right? There's a reason we have two main appetites, sexual and food, right? Because they're for survival. They are to live. So, you know, we've all had that joke with that boss at work that we're thinking she needs to get laid. Okay. And I was
we say that a lot, isn't it? Like, especially when someone is really nasty, like
you're like,
somebody needs to go. And we say it as a joke, but there's so much truth in that.
It
like
is true.
most married women who are having a very active sexual life are more relaxed. Even the kids see it, like, a mom's more relaxed. I mean, you would even hear children having jokes, oh, mommy and daddy haven't had their time, because they're all up in everybody's business. You know?
It's so regulating, especially for women. For men, it has its own benefits as well, but we actually never talk about the multiple benefits for women. And so when I am out here trying to meet a need and I can't meet it legitimately, because the hubby don't see, where's the hubby? Is he gonna, where's the hubby?
It's not coming.
After you haven't been touched for a few years and the right person says the right things at the right time, touches you in the right places, and you happen to indulge yourself accordingly, what we do is, instead of owning it and saying, you know what, I just needed a need met, I just, hallelujah, Lord, whatever, you know, a need was met, right? What we do is we make him the villain, you know. And I had
we're going to shame as well.
Exactly. You know, we shame him, we make him the villain. And I'm not saying he isn't, he's got his part to play, but we don't recover because we catch people doing things to us. We don't recover because we've got somebody to blame. We recover when we take accountability. That's where healing starts. It doesn't start from he did it, she did it. It always starts from, where can I start from a place of compassionate inquiry with myself? How can I inquire of myself and realize that, you know, I cannot hold a gun over my head when I was just a starving person trying to eat. Right. This is not to justify anybody's behavior or try and talk anybody out of whatever they have decided they want to do with their sexuality. Right. This is not, I'm not here to give a moral speech. I'm here to give grace. Really, and say, look, you know, can we own it? Can we say, you know what, I had a client and, you know, she had a, you know, when she first came to me, she wanted to be abstinent until marriage. So she, as our Black swans do, she met a high value, high status and high worth man, because that's what we do here, the Black swan relationship, can't we? And, you know, he was, oh my goodness, spoiling her rotten. I mean, the works, hello. And, you know, very, very wealthy guy. And anyway, they had the best sex life. She decided that she was, you know, she gave him her contract. If you don't know what that is, see you in the Black Swan Nation. Okay. Just join the Black Swan Nation, because we're not going to go through that. But she presented with her contract and he signed off on it. And we can talk about that as one of the solutions, even though it's, you know, it's a way to at least protect yourself.
Yeah, it is.
On it. And they had the best interactions. And anyway, eventually, for whatever reason, he decided to disappear. Obviously, she's heartbroken. You know, I probably, you know, would have guided her a little bit differently, but I always appreciate when people do what they have to do. You know, we're grown, and my job is to fix it, not to make you feel worse. And so he disappeared. But the issue there was that she was really, I was able to bring it. The only point where she was able to heal was when she eventually was able to say, actually, I needed that. I was abstinent for 5 years, and I genuinely needed it. And I feel so good. Like, I feel good. You know, she was really able to own it, you know, and from owning it, there was no more guilt and shame and all of these things that, you know, become problematic moving forward. She was able to say, you know what, I understand that I needed it now. I own that I needed it. So now I'm in a better place to actually decide when I'm going to do it, to reset, put myself on the reset button. This is like, you know, I've concluded that I don't want to wait till marriage, because clearly the way I behaved with Johnny makes me know that I don't have the capacity if I meet the right person. But I definitely want to wait a lot longer. I definitely want to wait until I've got an engagement ring. And, you know, because she failed her first task, she was able to set a more realistic goal for herself. She might still fail the realistic goal, but what matters is that we're not in it thinking, oh, horrible woman that I am. Because guess what? There'll be a whole world to tell you that. There'll be a whole internet to tell you that. A whole religious world to tell you that. So we don't need to participate in that. And once we can navigate the dating world with a consciousness that I'm a sexual being, we're going to navigate it a little bit differently. We're going to be a lot more conscious in the processes. We're going to be, I was talking to another person, another expert friend of mine, I beg your pardon. And she said that, you know, she was talking to this gentleman and things were going great. You know, he started playing up at some point. And she said, you know what, Chengi? He started really chasing her back. He wants her back, blah, blah, blah. And she said, you know what? I can't even give him a chance. She said, because he knows what I like. He's going to turn, he's going to press my turn on buttons. And then I'm going to end up in a compromising situation. Then he's going to go again. So, but the difference between her and maybe the client I was referring to and other women is she is conscious of her buttons. Right. She knows what would get her to compromise her particular values right now. So, but the thing is, she owns her sexuality. She doesn't deny it. She doesn't disown it. She doesn't reject it. She doesn't suppress it, which is what many of us do. So when you keep disowning, rejecting, denying, suppressing, and you let yourself go to this guy, instead of dealing with your reality and finding a new compass in the middle of it, and really having an honest conversation with God and a heartfelt, real conversation with God that can only grow you and make you a better human, we blame the guy, that we become the victim. And then we create within our psychology this victim mindset where men are the predators and the pariahs. And then we create a narrative where we only therefore attract these types of people. What are your thoughts?
And I guess it's all, again, coming back to the whole point of denial. Zara was saying, because you mentioned the part about compassion. And I think we are the last people to be compassionate with ourselves. It's really when it's that like you're saying, when your client was enjoying those 6 weeks, those 6 months or 8 months of them being intimate, enjoying amazing days, it's only when the relationship broke down that she went back and questioned herself. In the moment we're enjoying it, in the moment we're letting ourselves enjoy it for what it is. And you mentioned as well, like, it's the difference between your client and your expert friend is that you get to a point where you have to know yourself. And then that's when you can say, to thine own self be true, because you can only really get to the other side of a full abstinent journey when you know yourself, when you know your triggers, when you know, listen, I cannot, don't touch me on my waist, because you're just going to fire things up. It's like not even just physical things, it's the conversations you're having, it's all of those. And the whole thing of denial plays a big part in that. When you deny yourself the power of getting to know yourself. This is where the whole problem starts. When you deny yourself the time to do reflection on yourself, when you deny yourself the time to do the work on yourself, when you deny yourself that opportunity to join Black Swan Nation, to do the soulmate attraction, to do whatever work you need to do to get to know yourself, when you deny yourself that opportunity, it then leads to all of these things. Because like I said, before we even go into, okay, these are the things you should watch out for, 10 things that you will do if he's just going to sleep with you, he will be able to do that because you don't know yourself. You're saying, sorry, Coach Yvonne?
No, well, that's what I'm saying. It's education and communication, because we refuse, because one of, I think, the hardest thing to try to do is to convince an adult that they don't know something.
Yeah.
And but I'm an adult. I'm, you're in your 40s, 50s, whatever age you're at, you are an adult. And as an adult, you have done life. You've been married, you may be divorced, or you've, been out with multiple people. And so for somebody to say to you, but you need to relearn, you need to rethink, you need to reshape your mind, change the bandwidth, change the frequency, whatever it is that we're telling them. But I'm an adult though, so why would I need to go? It's almost like asking them to go back to school and start again. It's, it just doesn't happen. But unfortunately, it's when we're educated then, and we know who we are. When you know who you truly are and what it is you want, you're not desperate. So not everybody can come along and sell you and tell you, look, here's 5 beans, it's going to grow into this mighty field. And, you buy it. No, when you know what it is you want, you know who you are, you're happy with who you are, you're excited in being alone and by yourself, you take yourself on dates, you do all the things you're supposed to do for yourself. Some Johnny can't now come along and does, and then you think, oh, no, you're going to want to know, okay, so why do you think that's going to mean anything great to me? I was speaking to somebody the other day, and she said while she was in the date and everyone was having a good time and really enjoying themselves, he said, well, you know what, I believe in everyone should pay for the first date, it should be at least 50-50. And, because I've been burnt so many times, thinking, what? And she thought, what? And she said, it's okay, it's all right. I'll pay. It's okay, I've got this, don't worry about it. And needless to say, she will never see him again. Now, if you don't know you can do that, you will sit there and listen to what the person's got to say because there's chemistry, and you will say, yes, but of course. And then what he's doing is seeing exactly how firm are your boundary lines. Do you have any boundary lines? Because if you have a boundary line, then that's not going to run with you. But if you like him and the chemistry is right, let's blur those lines a bit. Yes, of course. Of course, I don't mind paying, my half.
And that's amazing and fantastic, Coach Yvonne, because, you really started off here with the point of boundaries.
Yeah.
How far a man can get with you sexually, he determines that from your first interactions and encounters.
Yeah.
Right. If you have such loose boundaries and you have no standards about how you wish to be treated. And when we're talking about standards, we're not imposing our high value standards on men. Okay.
Yeah.
What we're doing is upholding our own standards and eliminating those who are not in the same frequency.
Yeah.
So for instance, the guy who wants to go 50-50 on a first date, he's not a bad guy. He's just not vibrating on the frequency of a black swan. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we don't want to shame him. We don't want him to feel any kind of way, because guess what? There are women out there that are about that life. Okay. And basically, the issue is to let him know who you are. So before we even get to, waterworks and all that stuff, men tend to know intuitively anyway, if you're the kind of girl they can hit
Yeah.
and quit on. But if you came on a hit and quit mission and you thought, I can have her, regardless of her black swan status, I can do a hit and quit with her. The moment you now have to perform at the level of an actual alpha, then you can't perform. You're probably going to quit sooner.
Well, you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
If you actually have to invest some time, attention, intelligence, and conversation, and you know you're not of that ilk, you are not of that caliber as a man, you will quit sooner.
Yeah.
The problem is that we've been told that, you know, we must try and make a man stay. Even some of the dating coaching, how do we get to the second date, right? It's not about the second date. It's about how do we uphold our standards, show off our boundaries from the get-go. How do we show up, in fact, authentically? Because it's easy for people to run away from an authentic person because it's not about, you know what, I'm not one of those girls. Don't just sleep with men, you know. So if you're gonna be with me, you got to make sure that, you know, you like stick around. He's going to sleep with you and run off because you're even prime candidate, right? He's not going to sleep with you because you said so, right?
Yeah.
He's going to treat you differently with higher respect when the standards are high, when the levels of access, there's so many levels of access. How you even give him your non-sexual time and attention. Are you on the phone with this guy you met on the street for 2 hours? What are you doing? Again, what are you doing? Why are you giving a complete virtual stranger 2 hours of undivided? Do you know how precious attention is? Companies pay billions and millions to get you and I's attention, even if it's just for 2 minutes, because they might be able to sell us something. Yet you met some guy on an app. You met him on the streets. He was brave enough to walk and talk to you, but now you're on the phone for 3 hours. What are you doing? If he can get that much emotional access, intellectual access, spiritual access, he already knows that sexual access is 2 minutes away.
Yeah.
And he knows that you gave your non-sexual attention so cheaply that he knows that he tells himself, well, she gives it to every guy.
Yes.
And when he's hit and quit, well, she'll just be on to the next one tomorrow and talking.
So she's got a nice supply going.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I always say, that we need to, like Coach Yvonne eloquently said, education.
Yeah.
We are in an advice culture, in a season in life relationally, when we need to be in an education culture. We're all running around seeking advice, choosing the advice of our favorite people. Oh, because that person is married. I like the advice. I like to take advice from married men. I like to take advice from men, because women don't even know what they're talking about. Oh, I like to take advice from people who are married, or I like to take advice from people who are dating because they know what's going on in the dating world. Listen, what you like doesn't matter. I like the sun. I like to live in the sun. I like the sun to shine upon my life day and night. I like it. But I know scientifically that the weather is not up to my liking. Right? If I want the sun, I'm going to have to emigrate. That's what okay. But if I'm going to live here, I'm going to have to learn to keep warm. Okay. So we're, and the only way we can eradicate advice culture is by really teaching you Black Swans to value education. It's really when you say, for you to be an accountant, to be a doctor, to be all of these things that you are, you had to submit yourself to education. Nobody ends up with a fantastic career because they got advice. You got advice from a banker, and I really like it because they're from Goldman Sachs. So I got advice from, I like my advice from Goldman Sachs, not Metro Bank. And like when I went and I got advice, and then you go for an interview and get a job because you got advice from that person. We don't even think it makes sense.
No.
We don't think building a career that way makes sense. But you know what we think makes sense? Is inviting somebody to be part of your eternal destiny, to live in your life, to sleep in your bed, to enter your body, which is the temple of the Holy Ghost, to come in and out as he will, to affect our choices,
Yeah.
to hold ourselves accountable to submit ourselves to, and we have nothing but advice from grandma.
You need to keep a
Nothing
man.
but advice from our besties. We have nothing but advice from the lady down the street who's married and has been married for 100 years, even though he beats her for 99.9% of those years, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. We have built this whole system of relationships, and it worked for a time.
Yeah.
It did. It was useful.
Yeah.
We're still seeking advice in an era where we should be seeking an education. We now need a degree level education on relationships, because that's how real it is. I was talking to my manicurist today, and I was saying to her, I have been in this field all my life pretty much, and I'm an absolute geek, because she's like, Chengi, always when I'm walking, I'm listening to a book. When I'm showering, I'm listening to a book. I'm always reading. I'm always researching. You know, everybody knows this on my team. Like, I'm obsessed. And Coach Yvonne is like, you're like a sponge. You're like, you know, I'm obsessed. And guess what? I've come to discover, the more I know I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I think, if I know what I know, my manager's like, but you know everything. I was like, I wish. If I know the amount of stuff that I know about relationships, and I still feel like I don't know, like, why didn't you know this? How did you not know this? Right? And I'm still doing that to myself daily. How much more you watching this today?
Yeah.
When we talk as coaches, we're reading 3-4 books a day. I was talking to Coach before this live. I was like, oh girl, you should read this book. And she's like, oh, I've already got it on my list, but I'm reading this.
The next one.
And I'm like, oh yeah, my next one is this one. I listen to a morning book, an afternoon book, and an evening book. I've always got 3 running at the same time. One to do with trauma, one to deal with relationship, one to do with evolutionary psychology. I mean, it's insane what, as coaches, the amount of reading and researching that we do to be so good at what we do. And you guys go to work, you've got full-time jobs, you've got children, you've got things to do, and we're all hoping to be successful. So I cannot this is why I had to create the academy. I want to create a culture of education. I want us all to think about our education seriously. I want us to get into the academy. We have term times. We have 3 months. We're half term right now. We have term times. Why? Because the coaches right now preparing. We're working up our next semester, right? In the next semester, we're on, right? We're teaching. We're perpetually teaching. We're planning for teaching. We are ready to teach, but so many of us are not willing to engage in an education. Rather go on holiday or buy a pair of Louboutins or whatever, but you're ignorant. And what ends up happening is you create these cycles in our lives where we blame men for being horrible demons that come and take from us, when really this is not true. The truth is, they are predatory men and they're good men. And you need an education as how to tell the difference. That's me on my soapbox. I'm done. What else do you think we should watch out for, Coach Unique?
Like, we've just literally just gone right in. This is just 1.1, right? And an hour in, we're still just on 0.1. And when you talk about the education piece, it's now the application of that education, right? It's when we talk about, and I see this a lot, especially like with clients who kind of come over to me, like, okay, let's do your Instagram, let's do your Facebook, let's make sure that your socials are ready to attract the man of you. Let's go online, let's do this, let's practice, let's do the actual work. That's where the reluctance comes as well. Yes, you can own all of that, but then if you're not actually going to go in the field and practice, like when you're training to be a soldier, you have to go in the field and do some drills. You have to go in the field. It's like, we think that if we're just going to swipe 1 minute, oh, my husband is here, I snatched him, and that never happens, because you need to get it in. Like, there's knowledge where you get the head knowledge, right? You'll get taught, you'll get the education. It'll all be up here. It now needs to sink into your heart. It needs to become part of your daily routine. When you studied for your job, did fashion marketing, but now it's the time to, okay, let me go and apply that to my workplace. Most places don't want you there because you don't have experience. I'm not saying that you have to experience every man, but you need to really work at the practical side of the education.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in relationships, we think, oh, we're just going to get it because we've got the knowledge. And most of when we're talking about the education piece, is we'll teach and teach and teach and teach, and then we'll go and get information from so and so. So it's not really just advice anymore. We'll download all the courses, we'll attend the classes, we'll do everything, but it's not the practical part of it. Is, yeah, I know that there are narcissists in the world, but how do you actually spot them? How do you actually then do the practical part to actually say, you know what, this is what I heard the coach is talking about, but now I'm in the field. This is what I need to look out for. This is the things that I need to see. And I can see that I can hear myself going off on a tangent slowly.
She's talking about the practicality that comes after the education. Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm going to go back to my notes.
Okay.
Because I think it is wise. So the next thing I was going to talk about the topic is the difference in expectations, what we actually expect within the relationships. Women, we're expecting marriage, we're expecting love, we're expecting, and we don't get to sit down and actually ask what he wants. There is the 50 questions that every Black Swan who's on this live should be having in their arsenal and keeping somewhere to say, you know what, if this comes up, I can ask him this, and this will tell me this about him. Therefore, you know your expectations. And again, going back to the part, we don't even know what to expect in a relationship. You don't even know what you want in the relationship. Like, oh yeah, I'll just date and see. It's, if you don't have a knowledge of your own expectation of how is your husband, not necessarily, okay, how you want to get married. So how is that going to shape up from the time you date? What contracts are you willing to sign? What covert contracts are you issuing out there? What sexual contracts are you willing to go into? What are your standards? What are your core needs? What are all of that? We're not willing to know about what we expect in relationships, so we get duped. He'll tell you what you should be expecting. Sorry?
You know, you just, sorry, you said all of that, Unique, and all the women that are listening who have no clue what it is that you're talking about. You're just making up a whole load of words.
I know, that's why they need to join the Black Swan Nation, because this life is not enough to give all of that stuff, right?
Yeah. They're like, what?
Contract, I was in the army.
Yes, come into the army, come into the arsenal. Like, okay, to break it down, there are certain expectations that a Black Swan should have to ensure a loving, cherishing, honoring, providing, safe and secure relationship.
Love it.
Yeah.
Did you have some last advice as well, Coach Yvonne? And have you got more, Coach Unique?
No, I think let's save it for another life.
We'll save it for the BSN.
Yeah,
save the rest for the BSN and for the app, which I'll go live on the app and maybe have further conversations. Go on then, Coach Yvonne. Do you have any final advice? Do you have any final advice, Coach Yvonne?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you know, when I was looking at the reason why men do the things that they do, and we know what we women think, and I decided, okay, so what do men say that the reason for what they do is what they do, and I was quite surprised at how articulate they were in the things that they were saying and the reasons why they gave for what they did. And one particular gentleman made me laugh when I read what he said. He said he saw this lady and she was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful to look at. She dressed beautifully and everything about her was just so gorgeous. And he thought, I'll have me some of that. And so he does all the things that he was supposed to do. He courted her, and then she finally decided, yeah, time is right. They get there, she starts undressing, and then he sees what she really looked like. But because he had started, he had to finish. And he said I couldn't go back because everything about her when she took her clothes off so did not appeal to him. And he just said no and went. And I thought, I get it, but wouldn't it have been better if you had said to her and just, talk to her, have a conversation, even if you lied and said, you know what, I'm really sorry, but it's not going to work. But you just getting up and walking away, not saying anything, you couldn't possibly put yourself in this woman's position because she liked you, you liked her, and you did everything. He really chased her because of her looks and everything about it, and then it turned out that she wasn't.
What was she like underneath? Just snakes?
I know, that's what I was my question too.
Maybe she had lumps and bumps. He didn't articulate. She had things that were not in the right place.
She took her Spanx off and everything went.
And then everything went down. Yes.
Okay,
and he didn't. Yeah,
funny, but I'm laughing.
That can happen to anybody.
I mean, actually, you know what? Saying that, Coach Yvonne, I do remember our good friend. He shall remain nameless. He did say that sometimes when you get down to the deed, there's certain things that do turn men off. And some men, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm not really feeling it, they will still go through it because they've already started the process. Yeah. But in their heads, they're busy thinking of something else. And they walk away because they don't want to have to endure that again. I mean, one of them was body odor. Can't run away from that.
Okay, the body odor one is actually quite popular.
Yeah. And again, like I say, the whole act of intimacy, it involves all your senses, smell, taste, like everything has to be in one accord. It can't be all looking good and
in one accord. That's church girl language. You go to church. In one accord.
Yes, you have to be singing in one accord as a choir. No one can be off in discord smelling fishy over there.
One accord. It's funny, but I'm actually funny about smells as well. I mean, in general, like, it's really bad, but I think, Coach, you guys all know my sensitivity towards smells. But if I really liked it, I remember going on a date with this guy. Oh my God, in every way he was like yummy. This is not recently, this is a while back, before I became a Black Swan. And I just thought, oh my goodness, he's like heaven. And he had bad breath and I just couldn't get past it.
I know. And we've had conversations like this, right? Because as a woman, if a guy has bad breath, but you like him, it's a different thing. And we've had instances on a date when I first started with Black Swan, and I got picked up and the guy decided to sing to me. And
I'm sorry.
CM couple is like, you're killing my mood.
You picked me up and everything, opened the door. He was a gentleman. This is now our second date, I believe. Was it the third? I don't remember, second date. It was always amazing. They're taking me somewhere close. The guy decided to sing, is playing like R&B. I love R&B. I love music. And he decided, you're the one. And the breath and whoo.
Needless to say, Coach Unique, you got a fourth date.
And it's a thing though, and I think if it's already putting me off at first encounter, imagine for that to be the situation. And let's be honest, and are there any boys watching? No, there might be later, but never mind.
Well, there might later. I'm sorry.
It's okay, boys. Just hang in there. The female body naturally has a lot of situations going on anyway. So I feel like if a woman is not on top of her hygiene, that is some of the reasons. And again, men won't tell you They won't tell you the reason I'm
No.
never coming here again is because of this situation. They just won't show up again. So there are some legitimate reasons they're going to run. So maybe let's be on top of our feminine hygiene, and let's talk about this in the Black Swan Nation so that we don't kill the boys.
That was the other point. The last point was personal issues.
My last one was satisfying curiosity. It was one of the things that some of the gentlemen had said, because they see somebody out there and, do you know, you're almost too good to be true. And so it's a case of, okay, let's see exactly how good you really are. And then you realize it was just a cracker after all. And once the curiosity was satisfied, then there's no point in me going back again. But here's, okay, I know I'm not supposed to ask questions, but I'd like to know your take on this. What happens if you get two people and they are intuitive? Yes. She says, I like you. Let us, get it together. He says, yeah, I like you too. Let's do that. No strings. We're not, we're adults here. Let's go ahead and do this. The curiosity has now been satisfied. Do they then still need to speak to each other and say, you know what, I didn't like when you did that, but the other bit that you did was really great. And she then says, you know what, I didn't like any of it at all. What's the point? Do they still have to now tell each other, it's not going to work for me, oh, I really had a great time? Somebody's going to be disappointed. So is communication still necessary, even if you've decided that, you know what, let's do this?
What do you think, Coach Yvonne? What do you think? We're going to throw that question right back at you. As a Black Swan coach, what do you think is the right way forward in this scenario?
In the scenario that I've just given is, thank you for throwing it back at me, because I know I should stop doing it. So thank you. And next time, I really won't ask any questions. I don't think either of them have got a leg to stand on, because everybody got what they wanted, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. You said, let's do this. I like you, you like me. There is just looking at somebody cannot guarantee you that both people are going to be satisfied. He's going to be satisfied because at the end of the day, his river will flow. And when it comes to her, hers may not. By looking at two people, there is no guarantee. There is no expectation. The only expectation that there is here, something's going to happen with him at the end. That's an expectation that you can really 99.9% of the time take to the bank. But
most times.
Yeah. But other than that, everybody got what they wanted. So everybody should be able to go their own way and live their best lives, and nobody go back and say, he did me this, but you agreed.
I think in that scenario, to be honest with you, I think it's a good scenario in that this is where we talk about contracts.
Yeah.
A woman that agrees to, well, let's just have a good time, she's got a contract. And that's why we say not to get horizontal without a contract, because I can only sue you, pursue you, judge you based on a broken contract. If we did not have an understanding about what this sexual encounter means for both of us prior, then of course we're going to hit quit and do a runner, which is part of the solutions that we provide in the Black Swan Relationship Academy. Is what is your contract? What is the understanding that you have with this person? And here's why we don't have contracts. It's because there's so much silence around sex in our families, in our homes, in the church, in the world. I remember I was telling
everywhere in general, isn't it?
Yeah, I was telling a friend that I had like a sex expert on my channel. And she was like, oh. And I was like, and then she kind of watched, I think, the first few minutes, and she was like, oh, I heard her talking about, certain sex acts, and I knew she was a rebellious Christian. And I just thought, we have so normalized not talking about sex within the kingdom, within our homes, within our families, that when our daughters, when us as women have to stand before a man and have a sexual conversation, it feels so alien. It feels so horrible. You are the sexual gatekeeper. Who allows somebody through the country without a passport and without asking about where they're going, where they're going to stay? What country have you been in where they just let you saunter in and wave goodbye to the immigration, right? If you are the sexual gatekeeper, then as a woman, perfectly feminine and perfectly right to ask questions and have them answered.
A relevant document.
Exactly. Or give the relevant, if you go, before you enter a country, you have to look at their requirements, right? And because we don't normalize sex, but even the word itself, we're still having to. And so when a man is there and he has not made anything, he has not verbalized a contract to you, guess what you're going to do? You're going to pretend as if you're on the same page, but that's in your head. Because often he's come with hit and quit. You've come with one day he'll marry me. Everybody's operating on two different contracts.
Two different countries altogether.
Exactly. And one of the things I'm working on, so it's really fun, and it's only going to be for Black Swans because we're mad enough to do it, is I'm actually literally creating a written, to be signed contract, and I'm going to run it through my lawyer in Switzerland and make sure that it's legally binding, because I actually think it's time that we actually had, because we are signing the biggest contract of our lives. If you get pregnant for this man, that child
changes your destiny.
The rest of your life. That man is not going anywhere for the rest of your life, yet you don't even have the courage to ask him, what does this encounter mean for you? I want to know before we get horizontal out here in these streets, okay? Because I'm going to let you know what this encounter means for me. And if you're not signing off on what this means for me, then it's a no deal. Because like Yvonne said, maybe for me, it's just a short-term hit and quit situation myself. Maybe you're in this because you're looking for wife, but I'm not in that headspace. I'm in the hit and quit space. As a woman, maybe I've just come out of a marriage. Maybe I've come out of a serious relationship. Maybe I'm angry with God. I don't know. Whatever I'm going through at the time that I'm going through. It's important that both men and women have their contracts signed. But as the sexual gatekeeper, you must issue the contract. And as the emotional gatekeeper, he needs to issue the contract. To be my wife, this is my requirement. Don't just bring somebody into your life and marrying them and they have zero understanding of what your expectations as a man is. This is bad leadership. You're not guarding your gate. For me, before he even puts a ring on that finger, he goes to outline. It is his responsibility to outline to me what it's going to cost me to be with him, what his expectations are, so I can have an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not about it, but God bless you. Let the girl behind me, let her have a go, right? But if he just lets me become his wife and then I'm a constant disappointment because I don't cook, clean, and whatever else he might expect, then he duped me because, we were both idiots. We were both not good people because now I'm a big disappointment. And now these women don't do. But A, I never marketed myself as that. But B, you never told me what the job role was. You just took me on. And, we need to, for me, I know that it's my life's work to demystify relationships and sexuality. The more we're open, like you said, Coach Yvonne, communication, the more we communicate openly, without it being unsexy. There's nothing unsexy about it. We can talk about it. Even what we like in bed, that must be negotiated prior to people being horizontal. Let's talk about it. What are your expectations? What are your non-negotiables sexually? Because you got to start doing some things in this situation that I didn't sign off on. Okay. Or you're going to be expanding effort in a situation that does not serve me. So you've been doing this for the last 30 minutes, right? You've been out here working your magic and I'm doing next, right? Exactly. But like, or that's
wrong direction.
We're reading a book and chewing gum, or something. So, and that kind of has all of this impact. We really need to normalize having, these conversations. We need to normalize. I want to see that, and I want to see it start in the church. I really do. I want the conversation sexually to stop being "don't do it." And these are the scriptures. So be a good girl and don't do it. The moment we normalize it for ourselves, for the people that serve with us, for the people in the kingdom, the more we normalize, make it normal, we talk about this normally.
Yep.
The easier it is for women to set their standards sexually with men. The easier it is for them to set standards with their husbands about what they prefer and what they don't prefer. The easier, because the sex life of a couple is a bedrock. It holds so much together. You know, a couple that is intimate makes more money than a couple that is not intimate. A couple that's intimate is closer.
They just do more.
So much to be said about sex within a relationship and how it creates so many blessings and so many things. So definitely, you know, we can't underplay, for me, the communication piece and the education piece. And I'm going to close now. We've got 5 minutes. Otherwise, we'll go on for 2 hours, because we know that we can sit for 10 hours. And but I wanted to just end with two things. One that was triggered by Coach Unique, that a gentleman said to me once. He said, you know, some of you ladies, you wear all this makeup. We take you home thinking, oh, we caught you, we date you, we're chasing you. And, you know, then the next morning we turn around and
what happened to you?
wig is on the bedpost. It's like, who are you? Who are you again? You know, and you know, from a girl like myself, who really takes time to make sure that we look good, we all look good, we all make that effort to look good. I wear extensions, I wear wigs, I wear weaves. I'm that girl. The lashes, so that we don't bring any surprises moving forward. Okay. But try and keep it natural. You know, I keep my nails natural. I keep my makeup. I take better care of my skin. So my skin without makeup actually looks the same as if it's got makeup, maybe a little bit more normal, natural looking. You know, it's really about having a grooming about you that heaven and earth. You know, at most, I look like a little girl. I think I look like, but you shouldn't look like, who are you? What did the girl like?
What did you do with her?
Where's she gone? I mean, I've seen some serious situations where, to be honest, men have every right to probably sue for fraud, because as a woman, I've looked and thought, what? Even the complexion is like 4 shades light or something. Like, it's crazy to me what we're prepared to do. So if you are that girl who just does too much, okay, I believe that high quality men love a woman that grooms herself, and they're not really bothered. They're not out here saying, look, come out the way you look like in a shower. They just want a woman, when they walk into the room, everybody turns and goes, hello, look at her, look at his woman. Then, you know, quality men, high quality men, they're not really fussed about a lot of these things, but they do care if the next morning you look different. So this gentleman was like, Liz, we just run. We don't come back. We just run, because we're not going to tell you that you're funny. And I suspect it is probably more long. It's probably happens more than we would like to think. So again, looking at smells, looking at how we present ourselves. You know, don't go on your dates with full on makeup. You know, wear your makeup pretty, but as close to natural as possible. You know, just keeping things as close to natural as possible. You know, and you know, if you're going to sleep over, you know, let's try and get permanent hair pieces.
Yes, darling.
Let's not have the hat. Let's not have the, you know, because that's scary. Let's allow the man to fall in love deeply, and then we can take it off. Okay, no, not really. But the point is that we have to be careful how we're selling ourselves and marketing ourselves out here. Okay. And last but not least is really, really, really super important. I want to leave this with everybody before we say goodbye. I want us to know that there are 2 types of men in the marketplace. Okay, they're relationship-ready men and men who are not ready for relationships. There is nothing, because here's why I say this. I have a lot of clients who have had sex with their partners quite early. You know, a month in, 2 months in, 6 months in. Well, 6 months is not early, but you know, quite early for most people. And are now getting married. Have been married. They're getting married, right? Because what is the difference? The difference is that wigs will get you duped. I love Gambia SM. She's so funny. They will. You know, what did I want to say? So basically, how does that happen? How is it that women can be out here giving it up early without necessarily making men wait? and still getting married. That's because they choose men that are relationship ready. When we're talking about vetting and selecting, so key. If you are on the market for relationships, that you choose men that are relationship ready. Here's why. When a man is relationship ready, he's already hunting with a whole different set of things. He's hunting with a whole different set of requirements. Okay. His list requires more depth. He's looking for character, he's looking for a degree of intelligence, he's looking for, and I say degree of intelligence because, you know, he wants to make sure you're not way more intelligent than him for the most part. And we like men who are intelligent and can teach us something. So let's not pretend we don't. Okay. So he is looking for more virtuous qualities, more of a friend, more for he's looking for something completely different. And when that man locates that thing, whether he sleeps with you or not, if he is relationship ready and he is like, I am here for a wife, and you meet that criteria, you're beautiful, you're kind, you're sweet, you're nurturing, you are black swan, it doesn't make a difference, really. It might, maybe, minutely, but he's not going to judge you on that because he's relationship ready. Okay. Now, obviously, we're not talking about a girl that sleeps with a guy on the first date all the time. You know, we're not talking about that kind of girl. We're talking about a woman like yourself, you know, who's a black swan, who has virtue, who loves her body, who doesn't just let anybody in here knocking through her body. You know, she has good sexual management, you know, even if in this case she didn't let him wait for 90 days or 1,000 days, you know, he will still marry you, he will still stay kind and loyal and still be pursuing you even after that relationship. So this is why I make the point, because we have been sold the lie or the dud or the untruth that it's all about making him wait. Right. So we've got this virgin who made him wait for, it's all about virtue and waiting. Right. So we've got the virgin who waits for 2 years and still gets done. Right. So let's say that if we are celibate or abstinent, let it be about ourselves, our value and our virtue and our relationship with God. Let it be not about it produces this result. If I do this, I get that result, because we know practically on the ground as field coaches, it's not the truth. And I say field coaches because we're not just teaching coaches, we're here teaching, but we are boots on the ground, right? It's not how it's working out in real life. We are the soldiers in the battlefield, and we're telling you that it doesn't, it's not virtuous virgin equals marriage, sleeps with a man early equals single for life. And if we really are honest, let's look at the girls we went to school with, the ones that were kissing boys in the bike shed, the ones that were letting them press, you know, fondle them. Press breast, as my friend's uncle would say, they're just pressing breast, I think is Nigerian. And, you know, we know that some of those are happily married with kids.
Yeah.
Your virtuous church behind is out here still waiting. So what I want to do is blow the myth that waiting equals, right? Waiting must equal nothing but your relationship with God being what you need it to be. If you are waiting, let that be about this. Let it not about be results. You know, I'll get results on the ground. And if you are not waiting, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get that result. I'm not going to wait because I don't want any man to run off and tell me he doesn't want to be with me, because if he really wants to be with you, he'll wait. He'll just not wait with you. He'll let you wait alone, and he'll get serviced over there, but at least he'll respect this, right? If that's what you want. Some who are truly devoted, you know, and have the same, you know, perception as you in terms of relationship with God as you, may wait with you, right? There are men that are doing that. Obviously not in large quantities, but there are men that are doing that. So what I want to say to you is, a man has got to be relationship ready. He's got to be a man looking for a relationship. And that's why part of that vetting is important. When we ask the 50 questions that Coach Meek was talking about, we're not going to ask a direct question like, are you
relationship ready?
Are you relationship ready? Because most men know that, you know, relationships are the carrot for us. So you might say, well, you know, with the right woman, whatever, he's going to give some sort of thing. But if you were to ask a question that speaks more to his values and virtues, you know, you want to know if his plan involves a relationship up the road. And I'll be honest with you, because I tend to date men that are relationship ready. It happens to be the case, you know. All of them without fail will instantly say, I'm looking for a wife. I'm dating consciously, I'm dating intentionally because I'm looking for a wife. Because men who are relationship ready, they don't have time to do foolishness. They know what they want. It might not be you, that they want to make their wife, but they're gonna state that, especially dating men that are conscious, who work on themselves with personal development. They're definitely gonna put that out there. But for sure, what I want us to be aware of is that part of your vetting, if you want a man that's not likely to run, that's the man that's relationship ready. And if you are relationship ready and he's not relationship ready, that alone will make him run. Because after he gets what he wants, he's going to be like, she's expecting marriage. What I'm going to do is leave her for a man who's ready for marriage and not waste any more of her time. And I'm going to run away. Right. So let's really select men that are relationship.
Yeah. I think, and more than anything is let's learn how to select. Let's not just be on about collecting advice. Let's get the knowledge. Let's get the I mean, you might not want to join Black Swan Relationship Academy. There are people who are teaching relationships. There are relationship coaches out there who are teaching how to actually manage your expectations in relationships. So let's not just be about getting knowledge and gathering it and keeping it and making it keep to us. Let's gain the teaching, gain the knowledge, and practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the last thing that I've got to say is, you know what, as I think it was Chengi who said it at the very beginning. I'm not sure if it's biblical, but I think everybody says it: to thine own self be true. Be true to yourself. Own whatever it is you're doing, own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Black Swan way. And that's well put, because, you know, Black Swans become Black Swans by taking accountability and responsibility and owning this stuff. You know, we don't become great women by blaming it on the world.
Yeah.
Yes, we can acknowledge the wrong done to us. I never want us to be people, and I think I've said this on my podcast, The Blame Game. It's perfectly fine and part of the healing process to identify the people that have caused you pain, and to say, actually, yeah, you caused me pain. It's part of it. You know, we've oscillated to the other side where it's like, don't blame anybody, you know, just take all the responsibility. That's harmful. You know, we should be able to say, that person molested me, that person beat me, that person, and that they're doing that created this much injury and harm in me. So now I have to forgive them because that's part of my healing. Then nobody hurt me, I take responsibility. It's okay to say, you know what, that guy misled me and that guy took advantage of me and that guy did this, but at the end of the day, when all is said and done, I have to forgive them and look at myself. What part did I play in this whole scenario? What am I not owning? Where do I not have the right information, understanding, and knowledge? Where am I not communicating appropriately? And then that's where growth takes place. That's where healing and growth takes place. And you know, one thing I never want to do is fuel the battle of the genders. I think it's the most wasteful thing we can do with our time. Yeah, painting men black and participating in the tomfoolery and the foolishness on the internet, you know, it just drives me crazy. You know, the only way we don't participate in that is if we take ownership of our stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading some of the comments.
I was just reading one comment that I think needs to be addressed.
Okay.
About dating when you're ovulating. Or going on dates when you're ovulating. And I've always said this, look, that is when you're at your most heightened feminine state. That is when you're able to actually choose with your eyes, your whole person. So I think sometimes we these are all excuses that we use, to be honest with you. So, okay, let me not step because I want to keep my sexual gates closed. I want to keep the truth is, scientifically, you choose better when you're ovulating. And I'll say, even when you're going shopping, go shopping when you're ovulating. Go shopping when you're at your most feminine body, mind, soul, and everything about you is at your most feminine, because you're going to choose based on your hormones at the time. You're going to choose based on what your body likes, what you like, because it's not about just the guy. You like him, the mentally, physically. Your body also needs to like a guy. Your body needs to actually agree with the person. That's why I always say sometimes smell puts you off. Your senses are heightened during that time. So I think actually, rather than not going out when you're ovulating, I think that's the best time. That's the best time. 100%. That's the best time to select. That's the best 100%.
Time. And this is where education comes in.
Yeah.
because you have to be educated to know that, because everybody thinks they can write the book on relationships until they get an education, then they realize they have no clue. Because actually the introduction of the contraception pill, women that are actually on the pill choose feminine men.
Yeah.
Because of the way that it regulates, the way it sorts out the hormonal.
Yeah.
When you are actually ovulating, you're more your feminine energy, and you're more likely to select a masculine energy man who has higher testosterone levels. So this is the key, is when we try to do avoidance tactics, we're only playing ourselves.
Yeah.
Because you are not sexually disciplined if you go on the days that you have no ovulation and you're looking at the man and it does not appeal to you. You're sexually disciplined.
And you actually feel really crappy because you're on your period.
Exactly. You want to be in a situation where you want to, but it's called self-restraint, a spirit of self-control. Right? It's like I always say, you are not abstinent if you're not dating. You're just not dating. You're not fasting if you're
it's just a famine.
If you're in a famine, are you fasting?
No.
Yes.
It's just a famine.
It's a famine, baby. You're not fasting unless it's a harvest, unless there's abundance and plenty, and you choose to restrain yourself. So, you are a high value woman when you are ovulating and you're still able to let him smell those pheromones, right? And you smell different to him as well. You are different. And women marry neck down and men marry neck up. And women divorce neck down and men divorce neck up. Okay, what that means is that when a woman stops sleeping with a man, that's when she divorces him. And when a woman is choosing a mate, she's going for the one her body likes. And that's a different conversation for a different time when we get into all of that. But we have to understand the science, because we'll get caught up in the philosophies, because relationships have become so philosophical. And as long as you've had a relationship and you have a bit of spirituality, mix it together and you're a guru, baby. Okay. It doesn't work that way. You have to understand how women choose. We choose with our bodies. And energy lives in the body. Our bodies choose our mate. And that's why we find ourselves so enthralled by a terrible guy, but our body loves him, right? And what do we do in those scenarios? So it's important that we understand that biologically and evolutionarily we choose men with our bodies, because our bodies tell us if he's the most competent, capable, most powerful mate, because women will always choose for survival. Okay. So there's so many protocols that we're running in the back end, in the subconscious mind. We've got thousands and thousands of years of wiring that is wired to survival, of why we and how we choose a mate. You're not going to learn that by seeking advice from Auntie Sue across the road, because she's married and has been married for 30 years. She has no idea. She has no idea about any of that. She's going to tell you, just find one man who loves you, see? Okay. But I don't love him.
Love you good.
But my body doesn't like him. It's okay. And then you're in that
you learn to like him.
And then you're in that marriage and that man is having to cry for sexual intimacy, right? And then for you, it now feels like you're being threatened to be intimate with your husband. So all of these things are really important, not just to win in the dating world, but to have successful marriages. Listen, we can chat forever. We're going to continue this chat without you, by the way, but we're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. We love you to bits and pieces, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday, when we are discussing whatever we think you want to hear. So let us know on our Instagram, follow us, and let us know what you would like us to do next week's live on. And we will see you next week.
Even in the comments as well.
Leave it in the comments. We'd like you to discuss the following, because this is a great opportunity for us to really go into depth and share our thoughts about anything that you'd love us to discuss.
Bye, everyone.